Hearing that sound only means one thing. It's Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th is arguably one of the biggest horror franchises to have ever existed, creating the iconic Jason Voorhees, the hockey mask machete-wielding psychopath who is after anybody who decides to do the inappropriate at a camp. Today, in celebration of Friday the 13th, I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the Friday the 13th TV series, running you through the 3 different plots this TV show went through, even showing you photos of what Jason was actually gonna look like with his new hockey mask, his favorite weapon of choice, and why it all went crumbling down. Hey guys, my name is Chris. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. It is Friday the 13th and the world is on fire. So many upcoming movies have been delayed and the news industry just has been really poor, so I thought why not freshen things up on the channel. I hope you guys are willing to support some of the new content I'll be bringing to the channel. I'll try to keep it as fun and entertaining as all my other news videos, so make sure you leave your thoughts down below on this canceled Friday the 13th TV series and if it was something you would have watched or something you think you would have hated. And leave a like if you're watching this on Friday the 13th. If you're not, you missed it, boy. But still leave a like. The announcement for the Friday the 13th series came in September of 2013, where Sean Cunningham, the man behind Horror Inc. and who currently held the rights for the Friday the 13th franchise, was talking about the future of Jason Voorhees. It was in this interview he mapped out exactly what he wanted to do for the character. He was already putting in motion plans for a Friday the 13th sequel to the reboot that we got in 2009. That didn't happen. Even giving us the first details of the Friday the 13th video game that did eventually happen and is pretty awesome. Nonetheless, the details about the Friday the 13th TV series emerged, and this is what he had to say at the time, claiming that the Friday the 13th series that they were working on would be titled Friday the 13th Crystal Lake Chronicles. Sean Cunningham goes ahead and says, "I think there will also be a Friday the 13th Crystal Lake Chronicles, which is sort of a Smallville. We've been on again, off again with that for years, and there are a bunch of great stories to be told, but I think the way that it's finally going to get delivered is not through a conventional television network, but through the internet. I can't tell you who the delivery people will be, but it won't be traditional route. There's also the possibility of webisodes." Hearing that in 2020, it's not all that crazy to think that a Friday the 13th series could happen on the internet with streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, HBO, heck, maybe even Disney Plus would want some of that Friday the 13th money. But this interview was from 2013, and Netflix and all these other streaming services were in their infancy and looked at as a new type of media that was very scary. I mean, Stranger Things didn't even start season 1 until 2016, 3 years later. Sean Cunningham never did reveal who this internet network would have been, but my money would have been Netflix. You know that Netflix was looking for as many IPs to bring to their platform, and one of the biggest bonuses of having a show on Netflix was that you could do anything with your content because it will be streamed on the internet where there's no TV guidelines, which is probably also why Sean Cunningham did not want to go to a traditional network and have the show air on TV where they censor so much that you can't really do Friday the 13th justice. But speaking on the plot of what they were going for when this TV series was first announced, it changes a lot until it finally got canceled. The first thing they wanted to do was sort of do a Smallville situation with Friday the 13th. For those of you unfamiliar with Smallville, it was a TV series where it was basically the origin story of Superman. It ran for many seasons and it basically just told the story of Clark Kent on a farm, even though he gets to meet all his future villains, all future superheroes, but it is a prequel before he is fully Superman. As a Friday the 13th fan, since we never got more elaboration on this, it's hard to know what that meant. Would it mean we'd be following Jason Voorhees' mother and how she raised her son and how she was always a psychopath out for blood? Or would it be us following Jason Voorhees as a child at this camp of Crystal Lake where he was probably doing some evil stuff even before he got drowned and put on the hockey mask? Nonetheless, this was their idea for the Friday the 13th TV series, and they moved forward with it with this mysterious internet provider who was gonna stream their new show. Looks like things didn't pan out because we didn't get an update on the show until April of 2014. Deadline reported that things have continued to move forward with the Friday the 13th TV series still entitled The Crystal Lake Chronicles, providing additional information that this would be an hour-long series, but it seems that the story for the television series has changed with these new writers on board. The current details for what the show was going to be at this point in time was was that the show was going to take Jason Voorhees and tell his story in different time periods. Further details went as Jason Voorhees is synonymous with the genre, and we plan to build on his legacy with a provocative and compelling take that expands upon the storylines that have already thrilled millions worldwide. Expect the show to take viewers in some exciting new directions that we're confident will not only excite existing fans of Friday the 13th, but will also attract new audiences to the situation and characters that inhabit the small town of Crystal Lake. That is such a fascinating take for Jason Voorhees, and the fact that this is what they were planning to do with the Friday the 13th television series, where they were going to tell basically a new story of Jason every season, I assume so, jumping from different time periods, I think would work perfectly. You could have one season go ahead and take place in the 80s when Jason first emerged, showing us what it was like going through his first rampage and his victims of that time period. Then you have season 2 take place 10 years later, maybe not even connecting to the first season except for a few characters here and there. With hearing that Jason would be jumping from different time periods, I think this really opened the door for them to do a semi-sequel to Jason X. I don't see what else would be the purpose of really jumping from these different time periods if you were not going to eventually lead up to the Jason X era. Call that movie corny or crappy, there is a following for it, and I belong in it because I adore Jason X. But again, even after that news surfaced, things went deadly quiet on it. The main reason they keep switching from different plots and hiring different writers is because they have to take these stories to the networks or to the streaming services, pitch them the ideas, and it has to be accepted. I'm assuming the first storyline that was set to be an origin similar to Smallville was just rejected by their streaming provider, and same thing with this new iteration of the television series was just not able to find a home, making them go back to the drawing board one more time before it was just ultimately canceled. In March of 2015, we got another word on what was happening with the Friday the 13th, the Crystal Lake Chronicles series with Sean Cunningham. In attendance to the horror convention Monster Mania, Sean Cunningham did an interview on what to expect from the television series, claiming that it was not dead and still very much happening. Sean Cunningham confirmed interest from the CW in regards to pick up for the TV show. According to him, the basic premise focuses on the real city of Crystal Lake and the effect that the serialized films had on its real life counterparts. This allows them to reimagine Jason in a more grounded reality, as the films would be based on the real life killings that tool the place of the camp, i.e. both the hockey mask Jasons and a more serious backwards inspired killer will be making appearance throughout. And this is the ultimate version of the Friday the 13th TV series that I would have loved to have watched on screen. Breaking down that story and the plot for this television series, I think sounds perfect. You set it in a world where the Friday the 13th movies are actually real. They've made the 12 movies, they've gone into theaters, people love it, they identify with Jason, there's merchandise, he's a popular horror icon, but at the same time, they were based on real life events, and the show would be following those people who lived the actual movies and the effects the movies had on them, while also having real life Jason come back for them. This would open the door for such fascinating commentary on the horror franchise, because for one, you're able to actually reference the Friday the 13th movies like actual fans do, where they can make fun of Jason X, or they can go ahead and tease about Jason goes to Manhattan and he's only in there for the last 15 minutes. But also with the way Hollywood exaggerates real life events for their movies, and them wanting to go ahead and give us a realistic, grounded Jason just sounded perfect. And speaking more on the photos from this television series, this is what Jason would have looked like, the actual Jason. The show was said to have 2 different versions of Jason in this, not including the ones that would reference the actual Friday the 13th movies. We would have an old Jason and a younger Jason. I'm assuming we would probably get a season where they retold the original Friday the 13th movie, and then we would flash forward into present time with old Jason and how he's coming back for the new people. I really dug the look of the new masks that they were going to go with. We also get his bloody machete, and yes, we have to address the fact that this was going to be on the CW, and that probably would have meant no offense to anyone who enjoys shows on the CW, but most of the time I just cannot get into them. The last show I really got into on the CW with Supernatural. But if Riverdale speaks to any quality that CW has to offer, this Friday the 13th series would have probably been boggled down with teenage drama, probably would not have kept the show as realistic as they were going for, and just filled it up with pretty boy teens and a school full of girls that could obviously be models but complain about their looks. I could just be judging based off the network, but CW did not hold the highest hopes, but such a great plot could not have been ignored. The final nail in the coffin and why this TV series was ultimately cancelled and no more news on it has happened is because in 2016, the original writer of the first Friday the 13th decided to sue Horror Inc., claiming that he deserves ownership of the Friday the 13th franchise, and they have been stuck in a legal battle ever since for the past 4 years. Not only canceling the TV series, but also canceling any future movies, delaying any updates on the Friday the 13th video game, withholding new merchandise from being made. Jason Voorhees right now lives in a limbo where he can't escape from. Details on the lawsuit say that it could end very soon, sometime in the summer. But if you know anything about legal court cases, especially dealing with IPs that are worth millions of dollars, they're going to continue to last for many, many years. But that is just some history behind the Friday the 13th TV series. I'll still be doing all sorts of new content, so look out for that, guys. The news isn't going away. It's just slow right now because of the world. Please be sure to like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new here. But as always, I'm Chris. Happy Friday the 13th.